All right. So results. We've been getting a lot of results, my friend. What has changed? How are we getting these results?
Well, results are always there. It's just how favorable are they? And do we
Right. I
want
guess I should ask, how are we getting these great results now?
Yeah, well, we definitely seems like we've turned a corner with some of our processes. We're getting dialed in, but I think the big thing that really has shifted is mostly between you and me and us understanding what our roles are and starting to just lean into that and accept that, you're good at some things, so we should let you do those things. I'm good at some different things. We should let me do those things and avoid either of us doing the stuff that we're not as good at. And we're starting to kind of really buy into this whole, the rocket fuel concept of the integrator and the visionary, me being the integrator, you being the visionary, and those kind of being, the rocket fuel that propels your business forward. That's been the biggest change, I think. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, for those of anybody listening who don't know what we're talking about the traction framework. And that's traction, which is Gino, I forget his last name.
Wickman, yeah.
Gino Wickman. So he wrote traction. He wrote the EOS. He wrote rocket fuel. And in rocket fuel, he articulates, hey, you need a role who's someone whose strength is to be a visionary. Visionary is macroeconomics, is big picture, is business development, is CEO type stuff. And then you need an integrator that is detail oriented, the guy who can cross all the T's and dot all the I's. I'm not that guy. I'm awful at dotting the I's. I hate dotting the I's. So much work to just go in there and hit that dot. It's ridiculous. But no, you're absolutely right. We've fallen in that groove now. And, I told you this in one of our meetings. I would have never called myself a visionary. But now that it's been articulated in a very respected ecosystem or framework that has been hugely successful in all sorts of industries and all sorts of business sizes, I'm now embracing it. Yeah, I'm the visionary. You're the integrator. I can't do what you do. You can't do what I do. Oh. And now that we've separated those roles or those seats, we are finding our stride. And it's just like we just paddled into the wave.
Yeah.
And we've caught it.
Yeah.
We haven't popped up yet.
No, it's just starting to push you. Yeah.
Yeah. The wave hasn't passed us by. We haven't flopped in the ocean, right? Now we're riding it. Now, if we pop up and ride this thing, I should say when we pop up and ride this thing, or to be more accurate, we're in the process of popping up and riding this thing.
I think so.
Look out, man. This is a great wave we're catching.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's a great analogy because we're starting to feel the push of the wave. There's a lot of agency that we have in kind of like deciding how we pop up, so to speak. But we're feeling the momentum, and that's a really encouraging thing. December was pretty rough, even first couple of weeks of January, it was like, man, we were all hands on deck, just trying to figure out how to, get a few more jobs, keep the team busy, even just break even. I don't think most companies are hitting their margins and making a ton of money in the winter, at least not in our industry. But, I feel like we've weathered it, and now we're starting to build that backlog and starting to have work that we can kind of project. So I'm very optimistic.
Yeah. Well, we're also, we're hitting our home runs almost on every job now, right? Production has gotten dialed in. We've cut out the fat. We've supported the rock star employees. They're getting more agency, more independence. They're getting better at their work. They're more detail oriented. And, for those of the people who've been following us at all, after we bought this franchise, or these, I should say 3 franchises, we had a hell of a start. And then we fast forwarded, 3 or 4 years worth of mistakes all in the first quarter. Our sales numbers looked amazing relative to other startup franchises. But but along with those sales came all the heartache and all the mistakes and all the fumbling and bumbling. And now we've righted the ship to a significant degree. We're not going back. We're not doing touch-ups. Like, the clients are totally stoked. Tell me how that's felt, right? How's it been leaving a job with the clients totally stoked, job after job after job?
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's really why we're doing this. Like, we're doing it to help people improve their home, whether they're going to sell it or because they were going to live there for another 20 years. It's most people's biggest investment, unless you're, the Chris Lawheads of the world who are also out there investing in a bunch of other stuff. Most people, and that's a great investment. If you're going to pick one, that's the one I would say, go for it. But that's most people's biggest investment. And so when we're able to beautify their home and make them feel more proud of it, like they made a good choice, like they're happier there, or they think they're going to get more value when they sell it. Like, there's a bunch of reasons people choose us to come in and do the work. But being able to hold your head high and walk out of there with pride and be like, hell yeah, we just crushed that. Before, that was kind of the exception. Now that's the expectation. And when we have to go back, it's like, dude, what happened? Like, this is weird. One of the biggest things is, I feel like in some ways I was really white knuckling at all of it because I was just not sure. I'm new to this industry, so I'm used to management, but it's a different industry. And so I feel like I was really holding on. And it's kind of one of those things where I think when you try to like squeeze sand, it all falls out of your hand. But if you can just hold it a little more gently, it'll stay there. I think that's the case with our team and with our work. And, the people that we have with us are just crushing it. And I think there's something to be said for me trusting them and, getting out of their way to a certain extent. And then also, my job is not to like do their job for them, is to remove obstacles for them to do their job. So I was in part one of those obstacles. I have to remove myself and then move into a support role. And that's been, I think, that's been hard on my ego and good for our business, because I came from a jiu-jitsu school where, like, at one point I was the only black belt, and then I had all white belts, and I did every job in the building, and I built it from zero all the way up to, a few hundred members. So coming in with that mentality is just totally different from, kind of coming in with the least experience of everybody, but being in the seat where you have to manage them, even though they know more about you, more than than you do, more than you. That's a hard pill to swallow sometimes when you're used to being kind of like the man, know everything, and you're going to teach everybody. It's required a different skill set from me.
Well, I really like what you said about your job is to remove obstacles for the team, not to do the team's job for them, but remove any obstacles that might get in their way or might make them less efficient. You're streamlining not only our media company, but you're streamlining SprayNet. And as an integrator, you're removing obstacles for me, right? Yeah. So we hired on a new assistant, a new executive assistant. I don't know what that job title actually is, but what was amazing for me is I was even struggling. Like, how am I going to manage her? Right. She's awesome. She's going to be totally useful. But even me just bundling all the tasks I need her to do was a kind of a heavy lift. And then you said, no, that's not your job. That's my job. So she'll report to me. Yep. And so I have one report in the structure here, and that's you. And that's the traction framework, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't make this up. We're just listening to people much smarter than us who have already been here and done that. You're kind of the big picture guy, right? You're driving the strategy, and you're solving big problems. You're landing big deals. You're doing all the big stuff, right? And my role is to take those big ideas or those big deals that you land or whatever, and figure out what that means, like in real time, down on the ground, kind of like day-to-day operations, because those big ideas are great, but they're only great if you can execute on them. Well, in our team meeting, that was the joke, is that they were going to change my name from the integrator to the executor. And I like integrator better, but that really is my job, is to make sure that we're taking those ideas and figuring out how to implement them in real time in each part of the business, whether it's, in the finance and admin, or if it's actually in production, or it's over on the sales side. Those are all very different things, but we need your ideas for each of those kind of branches of our business. But if you're up there doing all the big picture visionary stuff, you can't be managing the day-to-day. That's just exhausting and draining to you. It drains you of your life force, and that's really what we need from you. So my role is to remove those obstacles from you, help you do what you do best, and then also help the people reporting to me do what they need to do and do that the best.
Yeah, I tell you, it feels like a million pounds have been removed from my shoulders, because I've always been the type of entrepreneur that just gets it done, whatever it is. I'm the hold my beer guy, right? If an employee can't do it, all right, step aside, I'll do it, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't scale, that doesn't work. No. And as I get older and wiser, and my tolerance level for the hold my beer philosophy wanes.
Yeah.
Gosh, this framework has invigorated me, and we'll see how it manifests in the coming years. I'm quite optimistic about not only SprayNet, but Streamline Business Media and all the deals we're doing, because of this visionary integrator relationship. So, and again, we haven't even popped up on this surfboard. We're just catching the wave.
Yeah. It seems like most entrepreneurs are visionaries, and that's the whole like e-myth, is like somebody who's really good at a thing then becomes an entrepreneur because they want to build a business around that, but they don't usually have the management skills or the processes in place. They just know how to do the thing, and that doesn't scale. But it also it's not long-term sustainable for you. Like, you could do any one of these things, but only for a certain amount of time. Whereas if you're not asked to be the master and be the painter and be the sales guy and do the books and onboarding, offboarding, if you're not asked to do all of that, and you can just focus on business development and landing these whales where we're going to have to even subcontract some work out to some other people because we just can't do it all. That's where you're best served. So all I'm trying to do is get all the rest of it off your plate, so you're just only doing the stuff that you really enjoy and that you're really good at. Like, if anybody can just run their mouth about stuff, it's you. So yeah, that's what we want you doing.
Yeah. Well, it's already working, right? And not only am I yielding the benefits, you're yielding the benefits, our employees, our sales team, and most importantly, our clients, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what's most important. So you do see this trickle down, call it culture, that it has already taken off, and we've only really implemented this, visionary. I've only had this idea of this visionary integrator relationship in the last month or two, right? Yeah. It was a recent book recommendation. You were familiar with Traction from managing the Jiu-Jitsu academies. I was a little familiar with Traction, and one of my mentors, Rob, gave me a book, and then another mentor, Lon, said, "Hey, this is your next book, right? And it's Rocket Fuel." And Lon was like, "Man, you keep going from the owner's box to the field, to the owner's box to the field." He's like, "That's not sustainable. You're going to lose your mind." And I'm like, "Gonna, right? Like, past tense, bro. And there's been times where I've lost it." So, and already I keep saying this, but already it's yielding significant results. And then my vision of the future is quite bright, especially when I know that I'm not doing all the crap I don't want to do. Yeah. Right. That has to be done.
It's got to be done. Yeah. It's not where you're best served.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, let's talk about how all of this is funneling to the most important part, which is our clients, right?
Yeah.
Our clients are super stoked. I forget who I was listening to the other day, but it was a business coach, and he had said something along the lines of, you have to fall in love with your clients. You have to absolutely love your clients. And we are really starting to love our clients because they love us. We love them. It's just this, everybody feels so good at the end. When the results are there and it's so compelling, right? So we're in cabinet season. We've got, a proprietary process and paint protocol that makes these things look straight out of the factory, beautiful, long warranty. Everybody is stoked when we are done, right? Everybody is stoked when we are done. And that love seems to be growing, right? The nerves have kind of settled. And anyway, that guy's talking about love your clients just is really, sparked something in my brain, because that's been the results, the last significant chunk of clients we've had. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would say more and more that's becoming kind of the standard. There's still some people, I think, that whether maybe we didn't set good expectations for them on the front end, or maybe, somehow they have it in their mind that it's going to be a lot different. Maybe, that's just kind of how they see the world. And we can't really decide how they're going to choose to engage with our product, but we can certainly put our best foot forward. And it seems like we're doing that. And most people are at least appreciative of the effort. Some people are like, well, yeah, in retrospect, maybe I should have picked a different color. Yeah, fair enough. Not everybody loves every color, but the quality of our work is still top notch. And they acknowledge that, and they acknowledge how friendly and happy the team is, so it's not just, us as the owners and the clients. Like it seems like our team is having a blast too, while they're doing good work, and they're getting, rewarded by the positive affirmations from the client, from us. They're getting their job done in under, at or under the target times. And obviously that leads into the bonuses. So it's set up so that everybody wins. The client's happy. Our team, does good work in less time than is allotted. They get a bonus. We obviously are hitting our margins, so our business can grow and scale. That's really why we're doing this. At the end of the day, we didn't buy this franchise to help everybody else make money and not make money. We see it as everybody wins here. And so that seems to actually start being like a realistic thing that can happen. Like I really believe that we're going to hit our stride, and we're going to put a lot of money back into the business to keep growing. But this is a really high end business that is almost turnkey. Like SprayNet has figured out most of the stuff, and the stuff that we're learning on the fly, that's, I think, just the cost of doing it yourself. But I've been really impressed by SprayNet with the support, our coaching. We have the access to everybody else, like on our Viva Engage, where all these franchisees that have been there, done that, can talk us through some of these rookie things. Like, it's been great.
Yeah. I was giving a presentation the other day to a group about SprayNet, and I said, this is the biggest win-win-win-win I've ever seen, right? So it's a win for our clients because they're getting, essentially a brand new product for a fraction of the cost, right? 15% the cost of replacing cabinets, 5% the cost of replacing brick, 5% the cost of replacing stucco. I mean, it's significant. So they're getting, the clients are winning, the environment's winning because we're saving all that crap from going into landfill. Our employees are winning because we can pay them a premium. We pay them enough. They can own homes. I'm very proud of that. And then we're winning, right? Yeah. Eventually we're going to make a boatload of money with this. We're going to do a lot of good. We're going to be able to expand in other areas. And so, yeah, it's a quadruple win, right? I haven't seen something this, I haven't seen a value proposition in an investment I've made like this in quite a while. Now we'll see how it looks in 3 years, in 5 years. Most likely our future selves are saying thank you to ourselves right now. In fact, one of the exercises I do in the morning when I journal is I write a letter from my future self to my current self. So what
Okay.
is 50-year-old Chris going to say to 48-year-old Chris? Thanks for what? Right.
Yeah.
And whatever 50-year-old Chris is thanking 48-year-old Chris, that's what I should be doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to be quite grateful that we're doing this and really front loading and putting all this mojo up front so we can, so we can get a lot of sales and learn a lot. And dare I say, take those lumps. Like, let's just load our lumps like a good white belt should, right? Just get smashed and keep moving forward.
Yeah. Well, something you said kind of reminded me of a conversation that we had previously, and I think it's worth just kind of diving into. You were talking about this being like one of the most optimistic deals that you've put together, and you've done a lot of different deals. Now, most of them have not been buying franchises. In fact, none of them have been, but you've started other businesses. But really where you kind of cut your teeth in investing was in property and in syndicating big deals, right? So once you started looking at SprayNet through that lens, like you're putting together an apartment, right? How did that change for your kind of optimism and kind of like your ability to take those lumps? Like, why is it different now? Why are you not so focused on, maybe even the week to week or the month to month P&L? Like, we're still a monthly business, but that's not bothering you the same way anymore. And remind me and explain why it's different now.
Yeah, a big part is just familiarity. When I first started syndicating real estate deals, I didn't even know what the word syndication meant, right? I knew I needed to put deals together to make real money.
Yeah.
And so doing this, what hurt most about this is just my arrogance, my hubris. Mm-hmm. I thought that a painting company would be easier. Now, this isn't a stereotypical painting company. This is a very high-end painting company with proprietary coatings and patents and patented processes and it's a whole machine. I mean, it's $100 million company already, right? Yeah. The SprayNet as a whole has done well over $100 million worth of deals, right? But you're exactly right. When I look at it as if it was an apartment building that we were buying, where I had investors and I have property managers and I have general contractors and subcontractors and right? Well, in every one of those deals, there was frustration, right? Yeah. Every one of those deals, there was storms that I had to weather. And then after a decade of it, like, those storms are nothing to me. Yeah. But I had tenants threaten to kill me, right? I had investors wanting their money long before we agreed they were going to get their money back. I had, property managers go dark on me and turn into flakes. I had, electricians screw me and plumbers screw me, and, out of state people look at me like I'm just Mr. Moneybags to be ripped off, and right now doing a deal, like I'm doing a small real estate deal, and I've got a couple investors, and it's just nothing to me, right? Yeah. Now, some of it I still get frustrated and I still hoot and holler and the standard issue, but I don't hoot and holler as much as I did, say, for SprayNet, because SprayNet was new. I thought it was going to be easier, but no, it's the same thing. It's what we're privileged to do is pick our suffering, right? You're going to suffer. It's going to suck, right? But we're privileged enough where we get to pick that and embrace the suck that we have selected. Well, we've selected I've selected entrepreneurship and business ownership, and now we've selected together this business, right? Along with Streamline Business Media, we've selected SprayNet. And so, of course, there's going to be some suck. Of course, there's going to be some bumps in the road and some storms to weather. But now that I've framed it, like you said, it's just another deal. It's just another apartment building. I'll tell you one difference that was kind of eaten with me with this deal is I was just being chiseled away at $10,000, $20,000 checks I'd have to write. Yeah. Right. And then we do an apartment deal, and I would stroke $250,000 check or $500,000 check. And it was just this big chunk, and it was just one and done. Right. Yeah. And for whatever reason, and this is a psychological flaw, or this is my own issues coming up, but just being chiseled away 10, 15, 20 grand at a time on a regular basis was just wearing on me. And it's like, okay, I got to zoom out, right? We allocated 350 grand to this deal. That's what we allocated. We're not over,
right?
This is what we allocated. So this is just part of that. So that's been one thing, but you're exactly right. When I compartmentalize acquiring a business, similar to just buying a house as a rental or buying an apartment complex to rent out to people, it's quite similar, right? It's all the same stuff. This is more hands-on, but I think the arc of the deal will be the same, right? On my syndications, if you were in and out in 3 years, it was a home run. If you're in and out in 5 years, it was an average. And if you were in and out in 7 years, it was a bummer, right? Now, I never went to the bummer status, but we stretched out to 5 years on some of these. We'll see how this looks in 3 years, right? We'll see how this looks in 5 years. There'll be maybe more details to handle. But I think after we do this a few more times, it's just going to be like in another apartment building, right?
Yeah. Well, that's good perspective. I think if you zoom out enough, these deals kind of all start to look very similar. And so then you can draw on the experience from previous deals in order to manage the frustration. But in fact, it's actually better to only have to pay 10 or 20,000 here and there, because you're keeping all your reserves actively doing other stuff. If you you could have just dumped all $350,000 into a bank and just let it sit there so you didn't have to keep feeding it. This is actually better that you don't have to, but psychologically, it's almost like you're feeling each one of those draws instead of just one and done. So maybe that's a fair difference to point out, but I think, look, you're the expert here relative to me, but I think there's much greater upside for doing a deal like this than there was in an apartment. Is that right? Like, what are the differences?
Well, apples and oranges to a degree, but if you want to go apples to apples, there is more upside here. A real estate deal is based on the market.
Yeah,
obviously. Not that a property services company is not. I think there's more blue ocean here, right? Yeah. Spray net doesn't really have competition. We live between a traditional paint and full replacement, right? I don't know anybody else who's offering a painting solution, a permanent painting solution like us.
No.
So there's more blue ocean. And then in apartment buildings, like everybody got hot to trot on apartment buildings.
Yeah.
Now everybody's a syndicator, and maybe that's just an exaggeration, but I see a lot of people have entered the space.
Yeah.
Large institutions have entered the space. That makes the market more efficient generally. As the market becomes more efficient, it's obviously not a perfectly efficient market. There's still deals to be had, but as the market becomes more efficient, there's less upside, right? And there's bigger institutions who are willing to go in and do a deal. And, everybody, there just seems to be a lot of syndicators out there going, hey, you'll make 17%, you'll make 18%, 5-year, exposure, yada, yada, yada. And that's, at least those claims are a dime a dozen. Now, most of the deals I see, I say no to. And this is also a great thing for me right now, personally, is I'm saying no to all those things that are coming across my desk to focus on this. Cause yes, I do believe it's worth it. Here's another reason it's worth it to me, and specifically relative to you. So I got good at leveraging debt and leveraging investors' capital, and then leveraging me and my team's real estate knowledge, right? So those are easy things to leverage: debt, capital. Well, here we're leveraging debt, capital, and human capital, right? Yeah. And you are the master of leveraging human capital.
Master is a strong word, but I have a lot of experience.
Well, yeah, we are. We talk about this all the time. That's the name of my YouTube channel. We are stewards of capital. Yeah. Capital stewardship. And it's not just investor capital, and it's not just debt. It's our precious, precious time. It's our employees' precious time. It's the human capital that's believed in us. So yeah, we've got investors, we've got debt, We've got various power partners. We have now a franchise partner. We have employee partners, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what's one of the most exciting things to me about this whole deal is getting you in that role of the integrator and letting you manage that human capital.
I'm super grateful for it because that's really what I love doing. Like that was my favorite part of running the martial arts academy. Is like I love martial arts, but I don't love it in the same way that I did when I was in my 20s. My back hurts, my joints hurt. It's hard to get out of bed. Like I can't train like that anymore. But as my physical kind of abilities started to reach their limits, I felt like I was just barely getting started with learning about business, learning about management and leadership, and all of those things. I think scale to basically everything. Like it's all just business to a certain extent, and that's helping me work through these problems probably in a similar way that it helped you thinking about SprayNet as another apartment syndication. I'm thinking about is just managing another team, and I've managed teams before. The objectives are different, and the terrain is different, but the map is still pretty similar. So you just kind of have to learn how to read the map onto the new terrain. But that's my favorite thing. Like, my wife is really worried that I'm not going to be able to be around a bunch of people and as outgoing and doing all the people stuff once we have kids, because I'll be at home a little bit more. And that's a fair concern because I'm worried about that too. I love being out with people. I love helping people, figuring out what they want to do and then seeing what's in their way, seeing if I can help remove that or give some coaching or some guidance. Like, I don't know. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I think because of that, like it's easier to be good at things that you enjoy doing. So I think that I've developed more skill because I enjoy it. I don't think I just enjoy it because I've naturally been good at it. I definitely don't think that's true. I think I've had, to the extent that I've improved, I think it's because I've had to work hard on it. And I think I have a lot more to improve. Still, I'm by no means an expert, but I really love it. And so that helps me go day to day with all those little annoyances and minor just impositions.
Well, it's almost essential. You're going to do what you love to do, and then you're going to get better at it, right?
Yeah.
And then you're also going to put up with the crap that you have to put up with if you love most of it. So, and then just reps, right?
Yep.
How much time have you spent managing teams, right? How much time have I spent doing deals, right? It's just reps. And you're right. And you said something earlier, like, hey, what I was doing, the hold my beer entrepreneurial style I was doing was completely unsustainable. And I was running into those walls. I've run into those walls throughout my whole life, right?
Yeah.
But now that I've identified them and I know what I'm strong at, and I found somebody who's strong at the stuff I'm weak at, just the optimism is, in my mind, is through the charts. And, we have two companies together, right? We have Streamline Business Media and we have SprayNet Douglas County, right? And we've only been doing this for, a year, right?
Yeah.
We've known each other 4 years, and I worked a little for you at the Jiu-Jitsu Academy, and then we put Streamline Business Media together, and then we're like, hey, here's this opportunity. Let's rock and roll on this one. My prediction, if I can be a Nostradamus for a second, I think we're going to have a lot of companies together. I think we're going to build a significant portfolio together if things stay on this trajectory.
Yeah.
Right. And I won't pretend at all that it's going to be a straight line. Right. The picture of success is just this crazy thing. But I've seen you go through hard times.
Yeah.
Right. And so I know you're not going to wimp out. You've seen me get smashed and come back the next day and get smashed and come back so I'm not going to peace out. Right. That's another thing that gives me optimism, is because, you don't really know somebody until you've seen them go through challenging times.
That's
right?
right.
It's easy to be friends and love people when everything's good,
Yeah.
right? What happens when you get smashed in the face?
Yep.
That's how you really know somebody,
Yeah,
you
you learn
know?
a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about other people. It's just life. Like it's coming, like
Yeah,
there's no doubt in my mind that if you haven't been smashed either physically, then, mentally or emotionally or whatever, it's coming, like
yeah,
that's just life. So the point isn't to just avoid it, is to learn how to be resilient through it. And I think that that's one of the things that you and I have been able to kind of connect on. And from the beginning of us, getting to know each other, we've shared this uh, almost like an enjoyment of the suffering. Like jujitsu isn't type 1 fun. It is only fun after the fact, during like
right, right.
when you're getting submitted, you're getting just, pile drived into the mat. Like that's not fun. It's great to feel like the hammer once in a while, but usually those are few and far between. So usually it's just you getting beat up by people bigger, stronger, younger, more technical, whatever. Um, but it teaches the resilience, and I think that we did that. We've done jujitsu for much more than just the skill of learning the techniques, but really how to face your problems and how to be resilient through them, how to bounce back, how to not quit, the growth mindset and grit and all the things that we think are really important for us. We want to teach it to our kids, we want to share it with the world. Like that, we got to really exercise a lot of that. And I think that's one of the reasons you and I work so well together, is because we kind of have that kind of that trauma bond, that shared
Right.
struggle together.
Trauma bond. That is so true. That is so true. Yeah, it is. As I get older and hopefully wiser, I notice those things. Uh, you know, I do wonder when I see people just I'll put it. Listen to this. So I was doing a closing years ago, and there was a young real estate agent closing a deal, and he said he'd been in the business for a year or two. He was young, right?
Yeah.
And he had a Rolex and he had a Porsche, right? And he was talking about all his money at the closing. Um, and we were, my clients were buying a deal from his clients, and he was just puffing his chest. And this is when everybody was making money. The market was going crazy. And I could just tell he hadn't been smashed by the business, right? I could tell he hadn't had a deal gone to total shit yet. And I didn't say anything. I was just, I wasn't there to preach or anything. Fast forward a few years later, and I was talking to my agent at the time. We were remembering this kid, right? And I go, hey, dude, go look it up to see if he's still in the business, right?
Yeah.
He left the business, right? And this is after, a lot of people have left lending, and realtors. The number of realtors is dramatically dropped. So I guess the moral of that story is, yeah, he was hot shit when he was, for a few years there, and then he couldn't sustain getting smashed in the face by the market. Where you and I know at least that if we take a beating, we're going to come back the next day, right? I mean, I did jujitsu till I literally couldn't walk.
Yeah.
After the knee, I came back. After the AC, I came back. After the other AC, I came back. After the thumb, I came back. After the rib, ribs are nothing. Everybody gets ribs, right? Now I just spent a year off the mat with a back, and there's a chance that at least I'm going to be rolling with you in black belts. I'll be rolling safe. But yeah, the point is, you got to embrace the suck. I had a great student when I was teaching music, a saxophone student. I think he was like a Navy SEAL, and he has a PhD, and he was just a brilliant, brilliant dude. And he would always say these total Navy SEAL things to me, right? He'd say, embrace the suck. He'd say, show me a man who hasn't made a mistake, and I'll show you a man who hasn't done dick, all these, he would just put these little one-liners. And this guy was just learning to play saxophone as an older dude. Yeah. And he was just grinding his way through the sax. And then he got in a big band, and then he got gigs, and then he got paid for a gig. And I'm like, dude, you're taking the exact same approach that you should take for anything. You just got to embrace the suck and use the suck as stepping stones. All right. I'll say one other thing about this. I know I'm talking a lot here, but
That's
so I'm hot to trot on Tony Robbins right now.
Yeah.
So Tony Robbins just said, life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. And to tie that together with all this, embrace the suck. Well, the suck is happening for you, right? Those are the stepping stones. It's just a great way to frame life, right? You're suffering. And like when we lost all our money, years ago, now I wouldn't trade that for the world, right? When I got my face caved in a gnarly bicycle accident and they had to do plastic surgery with me awake because I had a concussion. So they did an emergency reconstructive surgery on my face. The worst pain I've ever felt. Took 6 nurses to hold me down. I wouldn't trade that for anything. I'm so grateful for that suffering. Now I'm not great. I wasn't grateful when it was happening. That's you're a master when you're like, oh, this suffering's really going to sculpt me as a human being. But years later, I was quite grateful for it. So the world isn't happening to you; it's happening for you.
Yeah. I mean, even if that's not true, that's still the best way to approach it. You're still going to get the most out of it. You're still going to show up to your problems in the best way, putting your best foot forward. And I believe it's true too, but there's people that argue with it. It's like, okay, look, maybe it's not, but it at least is a mental shift in your mind that's going to change the way that you interact with the world for the better. So just, if all you need to do is lie to yourself and say, this is happening for me, not to me, even though it's happening to you, great. Like, do it, whatever you got to do.
Well, even if it is pretend, that pretending makes your life better.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the type 1 versus type 2 error. Right.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about this. Like when you have a gun, you pretend that gun is always loaded. Even if there's never been a round put into that pistol, you always treat it as it's loaded. And then you don't accidentally shoot somebody. Right.
Yeah.
That's a very reasonable, smart thing to do with firearms, is always treat them like they're loaded. Are they always loaded? Absolutely not. But if you treat them like that, your life is way better because you don't accidentally shoot your buddy, right? You don't have a Dick Cheney moment, right? So why not just, whether I'm right or not, why not just choose that life is happening for you? Because when you choose that, your life gets better.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's my 2 cents. All right, brother. Well, until next time, we're going to go do another podcast.
Yeah.
We're going to do a Streamlined Business Media podcast. That's next. We need a standing break. My fancy watch tells me I got to stand. I got to complete the rings, bro.
Awesome.
So we'll hop off and we'll catch you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks, dude.